All right, I just want to say before we start today's going to be just a little bit different. Um, this story that I'm going to tell is my life story till now. There is no part of this that I have made bigger for the show, and there is no part of this that's not real. I need everyone to know that today is not a day where we're going to have a gigantic show. This isn't a Josh show. This is just telling you some of the lessons that I have learned. We're not going to ask you to stand. We're not going to ask you to make a big process out of it. I want you to enjoy the day. I want you to listen. I want you to hear these songs. I handpicked these songs because these are songs that live in my heart, that when I'm driving or I'm by myself or me and Nick, I listen to these songs and they mean a lot to me. This first song I've been singing for a month. I haven't been able to shut it off, and I figured I'd share it with you guys. This road I'm on, well, it's been a rough one. I've been up and I've been down, I've been lonesome. This road I'm on, it's ever winding. With every right, there's a wrong, and I'm reminded. Every struggle I go through is one more song. The road I'm on. Well, sometimes I feel I can't go on. I want to turn around and come to you back. With every passing mile, there's a minute. It's been so long down this road I'm on. This road I'm on, well, I've come to love it. Still chasing down this dream with all my heart. This road I'm on has taken its toll, and I learned the hard way, it ain't paved in gold. Sometimes I feel I can't go on. Just want to turn around and come to you back. Every passing mile, there's a memory. It's been so long. Down this road I'm on. This road I'm on, well, it's been a rough one. 'Cause I've been up and I've been down, I've been lonesome. I was born in a town about an hour and a half away from here called Fairbury, Illinois. I was born in 1974, and back in 74, Saturday mornings were full of cartoons, riding bikes. I don't have any bad memories up until the age of about 13. Everything that I remember was family vacations and beautiful times just hanging out with my grandpa, mowing the grass, and all this stuff. I thought my life was ordinary and normal. And then my parents decided to move us to Pontiac from where we were living in the country. Now, Pontiac isn't a big town, but to a kid that's 9, 10 years old, it becomes a big city because you've been out in the country. All you can see is cornfields. And you go to a town where you have only listened to music from music your parents let you listen to. And I graduated 5th grade in a little town called Sonneman, which is outside of Dwight by about 20 miles. And then went to Pontiac and started 6th grade in a junior high where I was introduced, and you're going to laugh, Krista, you're going to laugh at this, Guns N' Roses, Anthrax, Metallica, Megadeth, Pantera, all of the bands that my parents, just their hair started standing on end because I wanted to go to Motley Crue concerts, and they were like, oh my goodness. And that was the start of me being, I want to say black sheep, but that was the start of me being me. My mom and my dad at this time had a catastrophe happen. My baby sister, I don't remember how old she was. She was single digits. My dad worked in the suburbs as a carpenter because he had 4 kids to feed and a wife and a house to pay for, and so he started a union carpentry job up in the suburbs, and I'm talking Carroll Stream all the way up. So it was a 2-hour journey every day for him to go to work. He wasn't around much. My mom had to get a job so that she could help support the house. And one day we all went to school, and she put a roast in the oven in one of those big black pans, roaster pans. And my sister got home and wanted to help Mom, and she took a stool and stood it up and took that out of the oven, and it spilled all down the front of her, and she was in the burn unit. I remember coming home and having a house full of people, panicked, taking care of 4 kids that had no idea what was going on. My mom and dad summarily weren't around for a month because my sister was in the burn unit in Chicago. I remember having people come and clean up, and they wouldn't let me see the house and what was going on. And I didn't understand. I understand now. But at that point, I didn't understand. But that was the end of my parents because my dad had to work, and my mom had to go and take care of my sister. And there was things that are rough. They have to debride burns. They have to skin grafts. There has to be surgeries. And my sister's in the hospital. And my mom is by herself. And my dad's at work. And we have no idea what's going on. So my mom got lonely and she left. And about the age of 13, my parents got divorced. And I didn't know where my mom went. She was just gone. And so here I am in a new town, in a new school, with everything going on. My sister's gone, my mom is gone, my dad's at work all the time. I am literally raising my brothers and sisters because nobody else could or would. My dad, at this point, decides to move us to Ottawa, or Wedren, because what happens is he has 2 sisters that live out by Wedren, and he needed help with the kids. He couldn't leave us alone. I mean, obviously, one of them got burned very severely. And you guys know me now. I've never been a different person. So he moved us up here. Now, I just told you that I was in Pontiac learning about all this new music and heavy metal and all this stuff. And he moves me to Wedren, Illinois, where I have to go to Serena, Illinois. And their mascot is a husker. It's a corn cob. And I'm like, what is this? All right. How many of you have seen the movie Footloose? All right. Quite literally, I walked into my first day of school at Serena with a Motley Crue shirt on, tight rolled jeans, Converse all the way up, not tied, and all of these kids I walk in, and it looks like Garth Brooks' little brother running everywhere. Lifted trucks, cowboy hats, and I'm like, what is going on? This is nuts. And every one of them's like, what are you wearing? I'm like, you've never heard of Motley Crue? And they're like, no. So that was a culture shock for me. But then again, my dad was gone. And so my little brothers and sisters were going to a little school called Harding. If you grew up around here, you know where that's at. Their education was much different than mine because I had gone to Sonneman and then I went to Pontiac. I've got culture shock going all over the place, you know. The life and the world had changed. When I was a kid, I remember riding in the back window of my dad's Delta 88, watching out the back window while he's driving. Now we're up here and we've got a minivan with a bunch of kids in it, and everybody's like, what is going on? These kids are heathens running around like crazy. You know, at one point I got in trouble at school because I rode my dad's Goldwing because I missed the bus, and they were like, you can't just take a motorcycle to school. And I'm like, I did. And then my dad was like, why'd you get suspended? And I'm like, because I took your Goldwing to school. And he's like, yeah, what? I didn't even have a driver's license. I was riding a full-fledged Goldwing to school. So here's where things get crazy. My mom comes back into the situation, wants to see us kids. But as divorces go, my dad was angry. My dad had been given 4 kids and the responsibility of the entire household, and she had left. Nobody knew where she was. And now she's back saying that she wants to be warm and fuzzy, and nobody wanted to be warm and fuzzy with her. She came up and started visiting us, and it became very contentious because at this point in high school, I was realizing who I was and what I was. I was that person that was going to say what other people wouldn't. I had realized that sometimes taking that road of conforming to what other people want me to say and what other people think I should say was not where I was comfortable. I'm very comfortable, and everybody that knows me knows this. I am going to say what you won't. I have, well, Krista knows this, I have an inability to shut my mouth sometimes. But I also have an inability to be pushed around for somebody else trying to tell me what happened. Because at this point in my life, I started realizing that where my dad was and what he was not what I was. Now I need to interject and go back a little bit so you guys understand how I said I grew up in an idyllic household. Till the age of 21, I was a Jehovah's Witness. I had to go door to door. I had to Bible study Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. I had to have this life that they put you in. Doesn't matter what shape you are when you start. You fit in that mold and you stay there. And I'm not that person. Never will be. Ever. One of the things that I have learned is, for me anyway, I am fiercely loyal to the people that I love and care about. But I'm also so anti-bully. When people want to put a hand on your shoulder and force you to be what they want, that is not me. I want to take a minute here and say this. Many people love the fact that when we come to church, Nick plays the eardrums and is the man. I love him more than anybody in the entire world. But even though when he started doing it when we went to another church, it was uncomfortable for me because I was like, oh, this is a spectacle. He's making a spectacle. And then everybody, you know this, started coming up and saying, he is a joy. I love it. He was unlocking a door for other people so that they could be who and what they wanted to be in a place that they were scared to be that person. Because church, I'm not saying this to be mean, church has the ability to make everybody stand in a row. We're all in pews in rows, everybody's sitting, right? But Nick is not that kid, man, and I'm never going to make him be. But when people decide that they want to try to push me into a mold, they want to push me what they say I should be, that is a no. So, I left. I wrote a letter and said I didn't want to be associated with them anymore, which, if anybody knows about them, if they kick you out, that's power. But if you walk away, that's power. Because if you write a letter and tell them I no longer want to be associated with them, they can't come at you. They can't chase you. They can't knock on your door and say, hey, we're just giving you a little reminder. And they won't. I've had people mistakenly come to my door before, and I walked and I opened up the door and they knew who it was. They closed their mouth, put their Bible away, and walked away. They didn't even respond. I am not saying that that is how religion should be. But that created in me a hatred of God. He was a cuss word to me. And you can be mad. When my girlfriend at the time and I decided to get married, I had nothing to do with God. We got married in a Catholic church simply because she wanted to, because her mom used to be a nun and wanted it to happen that way. I wanted to go somewhere and get married, like in a park or something. She wanted to get married in a church. And quite literally, I'd never been in a Catholic church before. So here I am, 23 years old, getting ready to go into an actual church, and I literally thought the place was going to burn down because I knew that when I walked in there, I'm like, he knows who I am, and I know who I am, and that place ain't going to make it. It was like the movie Twister. I just imagined this, a destruction coming through, and it worked. Everything was okay. We decided 4 years into marriage to have a baby. After we get to the point of making the decision and having a baby, it didn't go as planned. We had to have some medical intervention to get pregnant, which was fine. We get to the point where Nick is supposed to be born in August. Nick was born in April. He was 1 pound, 13 ounces when he was born. He was born at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Amy had been in the hospital for 3 weeks because Nick decided that he was ready for the world, man, and he was not going to take no for an answer. Amy had been on magnesium for a week and a half. She was throwing up, could only eat ice chips, couldn't open her eyes, miserable. I had been awake for 3 days trying to take care of her, and they call me, and I'm dead asleep on the cot in the bedroom, or in the hospital room, and they're like, Josh, we need to go right now. Now, when I tell you I'm dizzy, I'm saying honestly. They got me up, they put a gown on me, gloves, the hat, the booties, and they're like, Josh, let's go. And I have no idea. They even literally had 2 nurses walking me down, right? I go in and I see the whole procedure. I was not prepared for that, but I see the whole thing because they had to take him cesarean. They had to operate. And then Amy got sick. She had a fever, so she couldn't even see him for a week and a half. So I'm trying to take care of him, and I got scared. And when you get scared, anybody, when you have a life-changing event, when you have something that is catastrophic that happens, you go to God. I didn't want to, but I knew he deserved it. So I called the chaplain. I said, I'm going to get my son baptized now. I want everybody to be here. Call my mom, call my dad, call everybody. You need to get here. We don't know if he's going to make it. Get here now. They showed up very quickly. Everybody showed up. No argument, no questions. They just, boom, we're there. So we're sitting there. The nurse comes up to me after the baptism. My dad wasn't there yet, which that would have been a bad deal because what happens next is bad. I'm telling you that right now. The nurse comes up to me with a clipboard and says, we need to give your son blood, and you need to sign for it. And at this point, Amy can't even deal with it. And again, if you know anything about the Jehovah's Witnesses, you know that taking blood is a bad deal. That's the sin about sins, unless you write them a letter and tell them to go away. I get the clipboard. I'm like, okay. And like I said, at this point, I've been up for a couple of days. I'm tired. I'm ragged. My dad steps in front of the nurse, takes the clipboard, and says, I'm not going to let you do that. Excuse me? He is less than 2 pounds. He needs to be taken care of. Your religious beliefs have nothing to do with him. And forgive me for this, okay? I beat the brakes off that man. I had to have 2 security guards pull me off of him. They cleaned him up, escorted him from the hospital, and told him not to come back. I had bruised 3 knuckles because in his mad dash to get away from me, I had punched the floor about 9 times. And I didn't care. Now I need to tell you something right now that I hadn't told you yet because I wasn't able and prepared to. 1995, I graduated in 93. I was working at a steel mill out on the river on Canal Road in between Ottawa and Marseilles. 2 o'clock in the morning, it's flooding. I don't know if anybody remembers in 95. We had terrible floods in Ottawa. Everything, Green Street was underwater. The water was almost all the way up to those houses on Ottawa Avenue. It was crazy. So we had to tear everything out of this factory and get it ready because we knew the water was coming through and they didn't want to lose all the equipment. I was working. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. We had all of the locals shut off and we had the main on safety so you could bump the machine but you couldn't run it. And I was working with another guy, and we had this big piece of wire that we were pulling through these dies, and we had to get the wire all the way through the machine. And instead of bumping it with the safety, he hit the button. And it pulled my hand in and ripped my finger off, broke all my fingers on my hand, and I got immediately rushed to the hospital. Immediately. They called my dad. I'm 19, 20 years old, unconscious because I lost so much blood. And they're like, we need to give him blood, and my dad wouldn't let him give me blood. He almost let me die. I was in a coma for 3 days. After that, he still tried to say that Nick couldn't have blood. That is not something that I'm making up. That is something that defines me. Those 2 moments are things that can never be reconciled between me and my father. In the future, you never know what's going to happen. I don't know. He could change his ways and come back and ask for forgiveness. And I don't know what that looks like, but right now, there is no way that I can look at him and say, yeah, you're my dad. Because any parent, and if anybody that knows me knows, if anything happened to Nick, I'm going to be going to church and prison. I just need people to understand that that's how loyal I am. That's what I am. That's that person that was created through all of this. Okay? Nick is a beautiful baby. And all of his issues, as he gets older, we start realizing he's not talking. He's not walking. He's not progressing like an ordinary baby. So we take him up to the University of Chicago, and they give us a diagnosis of cerebral palsy and autism, which honestly shattered me because I wanted that kid that played Little League and go out on the boat and have all the fun, go-karts and all that stuff. And it broke me. And me and Amy had a very hard time dealing with this. And about this time, I decided to take a job over the road. So I was gone for the first 9 years of Nick's life because I was driving and had to make a living. I get off the road about 9.5 years later, and I come into a house that has a single mom. Let's face it, I've been gone for 9 years. A special needs son who misses me, loves me, wants me to be there for him. I am not prepared to be a father. I'm prepared to be a truck driver. I work on well sites at oil wells. I'm a roughneck. I would rather fight than hug somebody at this point. My whole life was based in hate and anger, and I was that person that would say, and I've already told you this, I would say what you won't. So when I get on the road and they're like, hey, get up there and make us laugh on stage, I automatically become the show because I'm willing to take what you think is funny, multiply it by 10, and say, there's your line. I get off the road, and now I'm the father to a special needs son. It didn't take very long before Amy said, you either get your anger under control or we're leaving. Now, there's a very special lady named Peggy Schumann, who used to be Jimmy's neighbor, that I called her at midnight, and I said, I need to talk to you. And she said, you need to come to church. And I said, I don't want to go to church. You know how I feel about God. She goes, I know, but the only place you're going to find a reason to move on is to say, I'm sorry, and move on. So she carried me into this church over Nazarene Church over in Marseilles, right? The one up there in the hill. She took me into this place, and I met a bunch of really nice people that absolutely didn't care who or what I was and where I came from. And I was baptized shortly after that because I realized that God, that I thought was a cuss word, that I thought was somebody that didn't care, and I've told Jimmy this, I think I've told you this, God is a pen that keeps sheep in it, and then you don't have to worry about those people, and then everybody outside are the ones you have to worry about because they're causing problems. The ones in the pen you don't have to worry about. They're always going to be there. And Jimmy would get mad, and he would be, man, I hate that you say that. And I'm like, I don't know how to feel any different, Jimmy. I've never seen or felt anything different. Every time somebody gets a chance, they stab me in the back or hurt me or leave me or run away. When I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, I lost any and everyone that I had ever had in my life. I was utterly by myself. I remember sitting in my apartment having no one to call or talk to because everyone that I knew was a Jehovah's Witness, and they didn't want anything to do with me. And now all of a sudden, I'm going to lose everything that I had again, and I don't want to do this. About this time in my story after I get baptized, Amy, my now ex, has a friend that says, we need to go try out this church called Crossbridge. Okay? Now, you guys know, if you go to church here regularly, Jimmy is like my big brother. Alex is like my best friend. And they are somebody that have weird ways of coming into my life. And this is how it happened. I walk into Crossbridge before it got remodeled. On the side door, there used to be a sound booth in the back where Donnie Lewis was sitting there. And I walk in, and I hear this amazing music. Now, I'm not talking gospel. I'm talking amazing music. This is secular stuff you hear on the radio. I'm like, this is awesome. I walk in past the sound booth, look on stage, and I'm just slobber knocker at who's on stage. Jimmy Angel, somebody that I have his CD in my house. I've listened to Blacklist. I bought it from Columbia House. There was 19 albums for a penny. Guess what? Jimmy Angel is somebody on the album jacket. Jimmy Angel's somebody that he's got the big hair, he's got the guitar, he's the rock guy. I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. I walk in and I'm like, oh my gosh. And Amy goes, what? And I'm like, do you know what that is? She's like, no. I'm like, that's Jimmy Angel. She's like, so? And I'm like, how dare you? But literally, we get done with service, and I'm like, I literally wandered up to stage, and I said, are you Jimmy Angel? He said, yeah. And he gave me a hug, and I told him, I'm like, dude, I got your album. It was amazing. And I got to meet somebody that I looked up to in Ottawa, Illinois. And he became part of the story. Whether he liked it or not, I was going to be his friend. I followed him around like a wandering puppy, you know. Can I carry your guitar? But here's where the story gets complicated again. Amy decided that she wanted to do a Bible study, so she went and started a Bible study. And she took an inference in part of the Bible study wrong. She took it that Nick was the way he was because of her sin. That God had allowed him to be that way because she was deficient in her faith. She had not been that person, and she believed that it was a stab in the kidneys because he had taken away the perfect blessing and given her, because of her, a broken child. Now, I am not saying that to be mean. I love my son. All right? In many ways, I'm more broken than anybody will ever see when Nick walks in his walker. I am more broken than him. But she took that the wrong way, so she walked away from God. I kept going. I took Nick because Jimmy Andrew was there. Alex was there. Sherry Stevenson was there. Joe and Tricia Jackson. All of these people, the Churneys, all these people. I met hundreds of people that were part of my story that I was not willing to walk away from. And that saved me. That moment saved me. Because I wouldn't be here today without the people at Crossbridge, without the people at First Baptist, without the people that tethered me, even though I didn't want to sometimes, to God. All right? And that tether is what this next song is about. This next song is called Changed by Rascal Flatts. I came up out of the water. Let's do this again. What happened? We're okay. Okay. I'm good. Rock God. I came up out of the water, raised my hands up to the Father, gave it all to Him that day, felt anew and kissed my face, walked away, eyes wide open, could finally see where I was going. Didn't matter where I'd been, I'm not the same way I was then. I got off track, I made mistakes, backslid my way into that place where souls get lost, lines get crossed, and the pain won't go away. I hit my knees, now here I stand. There I was, now here I am. Here I am, changed. Got a love. Hey, I'm sorry for things I've done. Man, that was not me. I wish that I could take it all back. And I want to tell them that. Tell them that. I got off track, I made mistakes, backslid my way into that place where souls get lost, lines get crossed, and the pain won't go away. I hit my knees, now here I stand. There I was, now here I am. Here I am. I'm changed for the better, more smiles, less bitter. Change for the better. Change. Thank God I'm changed. So here's where it gets better. All of those people I was telling you about, Tricia, Keith, Jimmy, Alex, all of those people made a difference because they tethered me to a place where people loved me. They loved Nick. They even loved my wife at that time, even when she didn't want to be associated with stuff. She would go and do small groups here and there, that kind of thing, but she didn't want to be a part of it, and she actually made life difficult for me to be on the worship team, to sing. And at this time, I started going to Celebrate Recovery. Celebrate Recovery broke my habit and my problems in my life. I did the 12 steps, and at this time, Celebrate Recovery in Ottawa was at Crossbridge, and we had a ton of people that were going, and we went to Murfreesboro, Tennessee for the Celebrate Recovery Summit, and I didn't know that it was going to ultimately change my life, because when I went down there, the Skit Guys were going to be there, and I don't know if anybody in here knows who the Skit Guys are, but they are hilarious. And I also learned that you can be smart, funny, and crazy without being as rough and torn around the edges as I was. I got to meet them. They signed my 12-step book, and they gave me my Charlemagne scripture. My scripture was James 4:10. Humble yourself before the Lord, and he will lift you up. That gave me hope, because I had met all of these people, and none of them were perfect. None of them could walk on water. We, arm in arm, walked down that aisle of Celebrate Recovery every week, and I started leading worship. There's videos on Facebook of me and Nick leading worship, and Nick's on stage just cheering everybody on. There's videos of me and Jimmy leading worship, because who doesn't want to sing with their best friend and, hero on stage when they were recovering? I mean, I met so many people there. And then, as happens, they decide that they are going to bring in this place called Team World Vision, and let's run a marathon. I didn't want to run a marathon. Well, you've seen me. I'm not built for running marathons. I'm built like a fire hydrant. So I start, all right, let's make a change. Let's go out of our comfort zone, because I have learned in my life, you're never going to move and get better if you're comfortable. Everything that changes is uncomfortable. Boom, we go. I start training, but every time I start running, I start getting blackouts, like blacked out. I can't run. I get past 1.5 miles, and I'm just cooked. I have no idea. So I go to the doctor, and where I work out at the sand plant. Every year, they make you go through and do a chest x-ray and all this stuff. They had seen that I had a heart murmur, and so they were like, we need to fix this. And I was like, okay, is it going to be a stent? Are you guys going to make me go to rehab? I have to wear the heart thing every day. And they're like, no, we need to do open heart surgery and replace your mitral valve in your heart. And I didn't know what to do. I looked at that as, this is going to be a third death for me. I had almost died in 95 from lack of blood. I had many, many issues in my life with, when I was healing from my finger, at one point I was taking 16 Vicodins a day. And I realized that the Vicodins weren't from my finger, they were from my soul. And so that road to get off Vicodins killed me. Because those are not easy to get off of, especially when you've soaked your body in them. So now I literally have to electively have them shut my heart off, fix it, and then wake me back up. And I was happy. I had found what was going on in my life. I had a great kid. I had great friends. I have a good job. Why now? One of my buddies who has since passed away told me that what you're doing right now is literally in physical form changing your heart. And for a while, I couldn't handle that because that's real. I remember talking to you, telling you, Jimmy, I don't know if I'm going to do this. And you're like, you have to.
That's right.
And I'm like, I don't know. So I did it, came out of it. Everything's good, right? Get rehab, everything's good. Things were a struggle, because this is about the time where my friend Trisha, everybody's friend, she gets very bad cancer and struggles till the end and passes away. Keith Cherney, one of my sponsors at Accelerate Recovery, gets cancer and passes away. My buddy Don Barron had a random brain tumor and passes away. And all of these people that had been the ladder of who I am and how I got here are gone. And I'm like, what happens? What happens? And then my wife then at the time and me have a huge fight. And I asked, do you want me to leave? And she said yes. And I left. I didn't look back. We had been married for over 25 years, and it had never been sunshine and rainbows. Not many marriages are always beautiful. I understand that. But we had endured her meeting me hooked on Vicodins, her meeting me almost dying, her knowing me when I was on the road and I was not a nice person, trying to raise a son, trying to come home and have a relaxing time in a life, and she needs a husband, and we were fighting every time. And then we start fighting about religion, and now this was just the end. We were divorced on May 17th. It was finalized. And it was bitter. It was very bitter at the end because things were very difficult taking care of Nick. And we had a very bad argument in court, and she basically gave everything of Nick's to me and said, he's yours. And I am a single father with a disabled son. But that is not a bad thing, because the people here, the people that accepted a group of kind of misfits, kind of crazies, people that have their own ideas, people that sing different, play guitar different. You know, I remember coming in the first time and we were singing hymns out of the hymnal, and I'm like, this ain't me. And then Alex is like, I want you to be a part of this. And I said, brother, I'll go with you, no problem. Jimmy's here, Amber's here, Krista's coming. Like, all the people that I love and adore and that I lean on. And now, look at all the people. We got Randy, we've got Rod, we've got all the people here in our lives, Maggie, that have defined this church, are a part of the life that is new. So in 2016, when I had heart surgery, that was a new heart. This is a new heart for the whole congregation. And I want you guys to remember something, okay? This has been the whole basis of this. I was trying to figure out for a week. I was on vacation in Tennessee, and I've been ruminating on this, trying to figure out what does this mean to me. the person that I am now is never going to be the person that I was when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. That may seem logical to some, but when we look back in our memories, that's time. There's people that see old times and good times and past times, and they look at that. And like, one of my favorite things is the 50s, when everybody had in my mind anyway, everybody had a hot rod and a root beer stand, and it was awesome, right? But we're in 2024 now, and people literally have electric cars. And it's like, this is different, okay? But we're the same people. None of us have really changed. The one thing that you can change is who you are and what you do. Because I, and forgive me on this, will never conform to what Rod says I should be, Chief, Krista. You know what I think you should do? Every one of us has a steering wheel in our own head that we tell where we're going to go, what we're going to do. And if we allow other people to steer the boat, that's wrong. If you allow other people to influence you in a way that you don't want to go, that's wrong. But if you give your life at church to Jesus and you understand that there's a bigger part of me that I don't have to worry, I don't have to carry that load, that is what it is. It is not me saying I'm trying to be bigger than the moment or the church or the people or Alex. I'm not trying to be bigger than the Bible or Jesus. I'm trying to say that I decide where I go. I give it to Jesus, and no one else can push you out of that lane. So if anything happens today, if you walk away from this, and remember one thing, you will never have to have someone else push you into a mold that you don't fit. I love you guys, and thank you for letting me do this today. This last song I wanted to sing, I just can't. This last song is called I Got Jesus by Ben Fuller. And I want to play the video, and I want you guys to enjoy it. And I hope you guys have a great week. I love you, and I thank you. If you're a part of this church, I just want you to know you're a blessing in my life and my son's life. Thank you.